Welcome, everyone, to Vignettes A San Antonio by Night Aftermath Season 2, Part 3, where we find out what it is that Noel's been up to these past few weeks during this holiday season in the Alamo City. Primarily, the aspiring sorcerer is doing a lot of studying to catch up on some things that he's possibly been putting by the wayside to take care of more pressing matters, such as maybe practicing some rituals, maybe spending some time with his sire, maybe catching up on some reading, or perhaps a little of all of the above. But tonight is a somewhat special night, as his readings might get interrupted. But first, Mr. Stoneford, what are your thoughts over the last few weeks about the events that have taken place?
I am troubled by what I see and what I hear. It's like an omen of sorts.
And as far as you're aware, Veronica has been eliminated. Harrison has been returned to Baron Jameson and dealt with. Information gathered from him doesn't really foster much in the way of anything new that you all know. But the Baron might be keeping that to himself.
He's kept a lot to himself. I would not be surprised if he was keeping something extra. And thinking about it, the chances of this dying with him are, given the amount of time he was out on the run for, low.
And something that may come across your ears is that Samantha's developed some rather interesting abilities. Abilities that seem very Tzimisce in nature.
Samantha was a thin blood. I know that much. Veronica, a powerful Tzimisce, goes missing. Been dispatched. And a thin blood inexplicably gains the boons normally only available to the Tzimisce. Screams one word and one word in my mind. She's partaken of the Amaranth. She's a Diablerist.
Something that you hold to be an anathema yourself.
Somewhat, but kind of misnomerous. Kindred Vitae is the very essence of transgression. We of the Banu Hakim, if we are to consume it, can be driven crazy. Much like starving would drive one crazy. And in such a thing, we lose control. And drinking of the amaranth becomes inevitable if we are not stopped. I do not see the amaranth itself as anathema, but I see the conscious choice of cannibalism as anathema. We are creatures prone to lose control of ourselves. This is simply just a certain fact of our existence. Any kindred who's existed for more than a couple of months would be able to tell you that. But when you make the willful choice to consume the life essence of another kindred, that is when you are no better than an animal. And as you are, so shall you be judged as one.
Well, any judgments that you have for Samantha in the future, we'll have to find out at some point. But there's a knock at the Coterie Haven door, where you spend a lot of your reading time.
And currently, I would have asked my dear sire to begin picking up some more advanced ritual skills.
Which tonight she seems a little too busy to indulge you in for the moment, but perhaps tomorrow night.
Just general readings and whatnot. Things that I can look into for something like, say, Ishtar's Touch. A little more advanced, but not too advanced. But that knock would cause Noel to close his book, place it off to the side, and go to see who was at the door.
And when you open it, there is a familiar face. But he's alone tonight, with that same case.
Mr. Doyle. What a pleasant surprise.
Mr. Stoneford, how are you this evening?
It has been quiet, and for that I can be thankful. What brings you to the humble abode of the iconoclasts?
I thought we would share a conversation over another game. And he kind of lifts up the case and kind of pats it a little bit.
I see.
We came to a stalemate previously.
We did. And that is something that should be rectified.
Yes, it should.
By all means, come in. And he would allow Mr. Doyle to enter.
And he smiles and walks into the room and sets the case on the table and begins unpacking it with the same chessboard and the kind of delicate looking pieces. He puts out on the board. I also wanted to offer my congratulations in capturing the threat that you had previously eluded.
Thank you. That is appreciated.
It seems you were able to do such a thing without even getting me involved, it seems. You and your coterie, I sure.
Hmm. We have captured the known. But it would be foolish to think that such an evil is vanquished without further investigation. It is the mark of a foolish inquisitive to think that just because the surface seems clean, that there is not rot still lurking underneath.
Perhaps. But given that you felt that this particular man was essentially the crux of the whole operation, that you felt was the thing needed to be dealt with,
Quite so.
Shouldn't that put you at ease?
It does. Partially. And I say that because whilst it's much, much less likely that we are going to come across people equipped with weapons with incendiary rounds, having kind know about our nature to begin with is a breach of the masquerade.
That it is.
Much less serious than an existential threat, but still serious enough that it warrants attention. But of course, now instead of actively hunting, now we can move to more proactive defense and reactive measures as need to deal with it. The worst is over, and that is what sets me partially at ease.
And here you thought that I was going to be needed.
To be truthful, the extent of the reach that he may have had, given the amount of time he was able to elude us, when one deals with those who are so single-minded, it is much better to be safe than it is to be sorry.
That sounds
Quite frankly, I did not want to see another kindred on fire. Mr. Buford, he was able to take it. A very strong man. But there aren't many kindred as strong as he is.
Yes, you're quite right. Such is the fortitude of a Ventrue, I'm sure.
Of the Ventrue, and found also amongst those in Clan Gangrel.
Yes.
Among others, I'm sure.
Among others.
But I feel it's much better to be safe than sorry, and also to work with, well, as the legends say, a man who has stopped so very much. Because, I mean, it would make sense that if the events of a year ago are any indication, that although they were repelled, the Camarilla doesn't stop in its hunt for weaknesses. Like penetration testers they are. I would not say that, go so far as to say that there are Camarilla agents in the city or anything of the such, but it would also be unwise to think that they don't have a way of watching, waiting. Probe the defenses, strike when weak. Because when one cannot overtake by the force that one normally possesses, if one has a chance to strike again, they wait until the opportunity is right, until the time is right, when the enemy is weakest. But this game...
Yes. Black or white?
Black.
Alright. And he arranges the board to have the black pieces facing you and the white pieces facing himself, and you proceed with the game.
And this will be the first intelligence academics,
Sure.
I'm guessing.
Sure, you can roll it.
Oh, I like that. It's not a bad roll. Afraid of re-rolling dice, but not bad.
It's not a bad roll, but that's going to be contested against his intelligence and academics.
Yes.
When you make a move, he's able to see through it and counter it. But it's not an advancement on his part, it's still a stalemate.
He keeps things at zero sum.
Yes.
Alright.
You take a piece, he takes a piece. So far, there's no clear indication of a winner.
No, it's just against an advanced opponent, it's just beginning.
So, regarding this little threat that you think is so weaseled into the city, regarding the Second Inquisition, it really only seems like preventative measures at this point, and I've barely had to get my hands dirty.
Currently? But as far as I am aware, there is still an unknown on the board.
There will always be unknowns on the board, Mr. Stoneford.
Oh, there will be.
And preventative measures is a good place to take the next step, I would suppose. But are you sure that you're not running yourself into paranoia?
Earlier on, I may have actually agreed with you. Oh, I'm just being paranoid that there isn't too much to worry about. But as it stands, the main concern that I have is allayed, but within one's actions, another arises. As weirdly, given everything that goes on, and given the gravity of the situation towards other kindred in the city, hell, other kindred in this domain alone, the Baron has remained weirdly silent on everything
Can you blame him?
to do with... Given what I believe he is going for, No. I can't particularly blame him. However, it doesn't make sense to keep such things from those who he had tasked with cleanup of in the first place, as I see Harrison as naught but an extension of the original task that he had given us a week to complete.
Yes.
Lest he took off our heads. And yet
Which you also successfully completed without intervention.
That was a matter of mistakes on the enemy's part. The enemy overreached, got greedy, and was punished as a result. And before you ask, it's something that I've kept in mind with the thoughts of my own maneuvers.
Yes, overreaching does tend to result in the defeat of a not-so-cautious opponent.
Yes. And whilst Moore was fanatic, I'm of the belief that he, in the end, given his origins, was exceptionally cautious. And if it wasn't him, then one of his subordinates that we've now taken down was. It would not be impossible to think that he told someone. Who? I couldn't say. But it's a possibility to keep in mind and react to as when the time is right. Because what I am afraid of is that we will run headlong into the darkness of the next night. Not even in the literal sense of today and tonight and tomorrow night. But as we move into the future, that they have prepared an ambush with a decisive stroke.
Well, with the figureheads more or less removed, suppose it's only the ancillary things to keep a lookout for, which you've already told Baron von Ventgau zu Altenburg about, and so far as I'm aware, has already got under lock and key.
On Baron von Ventgau zu Altenburg's account, I couldn't tell you. The last time I spoke with her, I accidentally stuck my foot in my mouth, and I have been wisely avoiding her since.
It's a wildly amusing story, actually. I've heard of it. It's rather embarrassing.
Noel kind of just scratched the back of his head sheepishly. Not my finest moment, and...
No, certainly not.
I would be the first to admit to you that as far as social interaction is concerned, I am not the picture of Grace Hunter Fire.
You're very eloquent with your words, but you, as you said, put your foot in your mouth?
Quite.
How embarrassing.
Quite so, but it is not the mark. Is it not the mark of a master who has failed 1,000 times to win once?
But then there's also, I shall not fear the results of 1,000 battles if I know myself and my enemy.
Very true. But when I look at these things, I didn't consider myself going to battle with Baron von Sven Waltenberg, but maybe that was a bit of a misplay on my part, that I did not consider it as such. Despite all the politicking and everything that goes on with the barons and all of that, in the end, I seek to look deeper than these ideals. In the end, we are all, as I have heard the late Baron Delgado put it, servants of the Anarch movement. And as much as I disagree with their methods, it is something that I cannot fault those who comprise the Camarilla. That they serve something bigger than themselves, for the sake of the whole. Of course, there's limits to this.
So that's a very curious thing. What is it about the Camarilla that you find distasteful, then? Why are you an Anarch?
In the end, the Camarilla is a system composed by the elite to the benefit of the elite. The trickle-down is simply a side effect, because you cannot leave your constituent members with nothing, or you yourself will be left with nothing. In the case of the Camarilla, merit, in the end, means very little if it is not recognized by those who stand at the top. And it could be for an exceptionally arbitrary reason that merit is not given by those who stand at the top. It could be that they do not like that you are from a particular clan. It could be that they do not like you as a person. It could be something that you may have done hundreds of years ago, because we tend to hold grudges for a very long time. Of course, a lot could be same for the Anarchs.
A lot of that can be doubly true for the Anarchs.
Yes. But in the end, the Anarchs despite if they loathe you, they recognize power. It is not the prerogative of a single prince or baron what your worth is, but to the entirety of the constituents of the domain in which you find yourself.
Are you certain of this? Because from your own admittance, Baron Jameson could have ripped your head off if you hadn't completed a task, and he would have had every right to. Or would have made himself every right to.
Yes, it would have given him an excuse. In that, there is no doubt. But in that, there also lies a point of trepidation.
Hmm.
You see, we had completed the task. And even went so far as to continue to follow up on a piece of the task that myself and my coterie found to be of major concern to the welfare of the city. It would be the mark of a fool who denies the service. Because such things, in the end, is how, from what I have heard, tyrant princes are made and fall, and barons become the products of their own revolution.
We cannot deny that we are all indeed monsters.
Yes, we are all indeed monsters of one form or another. Whether it be the tearing of skin and cracking of bone as one shifts into a form most horrific. Or that we command weaker minds via persuasion, command, or by the very essence of our being. Or that we use aforementioned essence to perform things that one might find disturbing. Or that we dominate others physically through the use of supernatural speed, or strength, or toughness. These things backed up by the ever-present voice that says that we must feed, we must dominate, we must harm, we must be afraid.
And it's at that moment that he's going to actually make an aggressive kind of play on the board.
Alright.
Which is another academics roll.
Oh, okay. I'm blood searching for this. Because that... I have 2 dice. Get a willpower. I'm meeting him.
Yes, he goes in for a rather aggressive play over the next few moves. But somehow you're able to catch it. You're able to see what it is that he's doing and can block it, if only by the skin of your teeth. He still has the upper hand, but you're at least meeting it. But he has more pieces on the board than you do at this moment.
He has the advantage of numbers, but it is the quality of the pieces that you control, not the quantity. Sure, you may send 1,000 sacrificial pawns, even though the pawns can be set as the most powerful piece on the board. One of those powers, despite being able to become anything, is the fact that there are many of them, so that you may be able to sacrifice one or two in order to move one of your currently stronger pieces into a better position, so as to open up defenses.
Which he's very close to opening up one of your defenses in this particular game. Very clever, Mr. Stoneford. But I'm not one who gives up very easily.
No, I would figure not. That would be foolish to assume. One thing that we kindred have the benefit of is enough time to learn determination stronger than what mere mortals can possess.
Too true. As if you play your cards right, you have all of eternity to see your goals come to fruition.
Yes.
So what are your goals, Mr. Stoneford? What do you intend to do for this city?
I intend to serve this city with the unique perspective and abilities that I possess.
That's a very vague.
It is a vague term. Because I believe that one who serves the city should be adaptable according to the city's needs.
And what needs do you see in the city?
For starters, San Antonio has an exceptionally large homeless population. And whilst some of them are laid claim to by members of the unclaimed, there are many others forced out of where they were living by... Well, I will not name names, but I'm sure we know who.
You do not have to be so blanketed with me.
With Baron von Sven-Gulze-Waltenberg's gentrification of the north side, quite a number of homeless have been forced into the southern regions, which makes a problem of kind versus kindred population. Normally, one would look at it as an easy thing. Oh, more kind coming into our domain, more food. Reality is rarely ever so agreeable, however.
Perhaps, but that could also be her very Toreador nature. Toreador are fickle things. They must control the environment in which they influence. In which case, if she is expanding her own foothold in the city, it would make sense that some of the more disagreeable things for a Toreador be moved elsewhere.
Oh, exceptionally so. I would not fault her for the move in the slightest.
There have been plenty of housing developments going on in the north side to try and bridge the gap between the upper class who reside on the outskirts of the city and the poorer class. Nice, but affordable middle-class homes.
Quite so.
Bernswald's Ventkaus
But
zu Altenburg is in real estate, after all.
and it's not so much her action that makes me point out that reality is ever so agreeable, but it is more the indicators of society itself. Because it is a mess of a thing that we exist in. And as much as I would like to be an optimist, houses such as the ones that Velda is building do not lend themselves to those who are already truly disenfranchised.
So you have a soft spot for the disenfranchised, then?
I believe in meritocracy.
Someone
I believe
who's not
that
from the Camarilla believing in meritocracy?
I believe that one should be judged for their abilities and their merits. Because it is not one's clan, in our case, or socioeconomic background, or color of skin, or creed, or anything else that should decide, but the content of one's character. In the end, the content of one's character defines who it is that that person is, and objectively, what worth they have to society as a whole. And so, such things are He kind of considers his words for a moment here. It is in that I find everywhere to be lacking. Not just the Camarilla, but the Anarch movement as well. And let us not talk about the remnants of the Sabbat.
You are a strange, strange man.
I am a strange man with stranger talents.
Some might even say that the things that you say are contradictory.
Possibly. But in contradiction, there is nuance to be found. Not so much in the what, but in the why. Because that's what it always comes down to. The what may seem random, nonsensical, even.
But rarely does anyone ever actually see the why. So you understand the importance of the what.
Yes. But it is why I prefer to take a more in-depth look at things. It is why I'm not satisfied with just the what, but with the why. Because in the why, you understand the mechanisms of the how. You understand how your forebears come to do the things that they do. You understand, furthermore, why things are the way they are in a more general sense, not just what they are. And with that information, one could spark change, if they are ever so inclined. Because in the end, despite how I may seem, I am a very simple man, Mr. Doyle. And I wish for simple things.
Now that I find incredibly hard to believe.
Possibly.
You are a very complex individual, Mr. Stoneford. Do not sell yourself short.
See, I can see how that preconception might come about, but in the end, what is complex about a man who simply wishes for peace? Not that we will have such a thing. No, what we retain of our humanity will deny us from that in perpetuity. But peace enough that we who find ourselves with way too much time on our hands. More time than one man should ever have, really. That we spend that time productively. That when the beast finally comes to claim its dues, that we leave behind something that promotes growth and prosperity for, well, not only in the kind world, but in our world, for our childer, and for our childer's childer. Because we will not exist without it. We will not continue to exist. Not us as ourselves, but us as a separate race from humanity. We will not continue to exist. The beast within will destroy us. And in the end, whilst individually it will always win, I believe there should be something liberating in the thought that eventually the thing that compels us to do what it is that we do may finally take its lumps. An optimistic outlook, I know. But it's about the closest thing we can get to light without us excoriating ourselves these days.
It is your move, Mr. Stoneford.
That it is. And he's going to make the move, if we're doing this at a 3 and out, it would be the move to attempt to checkmate.
Oops.
I'm gonna blood surge for this.
Right.
There it is. Ho!
Oh.
You know what?
That's a messy crit, my friend.
I'm going to reroll the 2 fails and the 10. Still a messy crit.
Yep.
So that's 8.
So in the last real move of the game, when you see that you're in a very dire position, you don't necessarily see that you're going to win out of this. You're frustrated that you're going to lose. So instead of actually making a move, you table flip the entire board.
Oh. Oh no. I didn't think it was going to be that bad.
You table flip the entire board, sending all of the pieces crashing onto the floor. Some of them look like they're chipped.
Oh no.
And
damn it.
he stands up kind of in a bit of a rush and a defensive posture, and kind of scowls at you a little bit.
Oh no. Oh dear.
Mr. Stafford.
Out of character, I don't know how to respond to this. One moment. Flip the board.
He was beating you. You saw the only thing that you could do to actually win the game was to keep the game from actually playing. And now he's standing there dumbfounded, a little bit angry at you.
Kind of a little dumbfounded as well.
That was not necessary.
Hold on, I need to think about this. Because I'm trying to think of what Noel might respond with, because given that it was a messy crit, he's probably not going to be exceptionally apologetic. Which is what my first response would be. He kind of...
You're kind of looking at it like... You're kind of looking at it like you suspect that he might have been cheating.
I don't have any... Looking back over the game, do I have, like, anything to back up that claim?
Not particularly.
Yeah.
He was making pretty straightforward moves, and you understand the gambits that he was playing.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't have anything to go, yeah, no, you were cheating.
He's maybe a little unorthodox. He maybe uses some very old techniques, but they're still viable.
Yeah, and so I didn't have anything to do that. Yeah, no, I'm just trying to think of how to roll off of this in character, because there is something that Noel would say here.
Mm-hmm.
Probably something along the lines of a lesson. Noel is kind of silent for a moment, looking down at the pieces.
Paranoia creeping into you. Given that it is a messy crit.
It could be.
Because I'm going to let you pick your compulsion.
You're gonna let me pick my compulsion. Given... Actually... I think I've got the perfect thing.
Mm-hmm.
Clan compulsion... Judgment. Because he made an exceptionally aggressive move, an exceptionally uncharacteristic move. And Noel may feel that that move was more on impulse than something that was actually thought through. Perform your actions with conviction. A thoughtless action is a reckless one. And the aggressive play was reckless. It put him into an advantageous position, but the move itself was exceptionally reckless. And so Noel speaks. I understand your anger. And I apologize about the board. I will replace it. But that there is a lesson to be learned here. What with that starkly uncharacteristic move of yours. I played with you enough to know that you are not an exceptionally aggressive player, Mr. Doyle.
You've played me once, Mr. Stoneford.
If it takes more than one player to gain the general game plan of the person you are going up against, you are bound to lose against that opponent every time. It does not mean that they will not pull out something unorthodox. You were doing that left, right, and center. But with the gambits that you were using. But there is a lesson to be learned.
Go on.
If you are playing the game and it looks like you cannot win, do not accept defeat. Change the stakes.
Well. I think that will conclude the game. It's a shame about some of those pieces.
Quite so, but as I said, you will be compensated properly for them.
Yes, the monetary compensation is hardly what they're worth.
Yeah, out of
You are
character. I
narrow.
can't put a I can't put a price on sentimentality. I just messy crit at just the worst time.
They were
The
a
what?
this set was passed down to me from my great grandsire.
Oh, Jesus. I need to think of a way out of this. Oh boy. I stuck my foot in it now. Oh shit. I need to think. I need to think. Need to think. Yes, that is rather.
I do appreciate the lesson that you are trying to convey here, Mr. Stoneford, but flipping the table, as it were, is hardly an adult move. It's very childish. And your very short age is showing. Have a pleasant night. He's not even going to bother collecting the pieces or the case. He's simply going to walk towards the door.
Yeah, I'm gonna. As much as every bone in my body is telling me to grab him and drink him, because that's what the compulsion is.
Yep.
It's like a hunger from anyone, friend or foe, who would transgress a conviction.
Mm-hmm.
I just need to stand there and take it. Oh, jeez. Sliced from out of left field. Now I'm trying to think. If he goes to leave.
That is
Yeah,
what he's looking like he's gonna do.
I have to not stop him, because if I try and stop him, I'm gonna attempt to drink him, and that's a bad thing. That's a really bad thing. Because just because there's a compulsion there doesn't mean that I forget the fact that if even a drop of his blood touches my lips, I'm probably gonna go crazy. And that will not be thought through, and I'll be breaking my own conviction. So I need to grit it.
Oh boy, does he need to pay.
He does. He really does. Just looking at that, there's a... Noel's face is blank, but internally he's grimacing. Grimacing very heavily. That could have been handled a lot better.
I will say, Mr. Stoneford, that up until that moment, I was feeling a bit like I saw some potential in you. But it is still evident that you are a child. Please remember that going forward. And he goes to open the door and is going to leave. You don't like that he called you a child. No, you don't like that at all. So even though the compulsion may or may not end with this scene, you can't help but feel that he has wronged you. Urian Doyle has wronged you.
Do not get mad, Noel. Get even. And I am gonna let him go as much as I don't want to. As much as I don't want to, I'm going to let him go. I need time to think of how I'm going to get him back.
And with that, we will conclude the vignette for Noel. Be sure to join us on Wednesday when San Antonio by Night returns with Season 3 of Aftermath at 10 p.m. Central Time on twitch.tv/CoffeeCat Presents. Thank you for watching, and have a great night.